So my name is Jakub Zavrel. I'm the founder of Zeta Alpha. We are a startup from Amsterdam working on the foundation layer for knowledge in enterprise.
I'm Dorn. I'm working at OTTO, and we're doing a ton of stuff in AI and evaluating all those large language models and how to use those.
Are you building your own frontier models?
We did for a while, and we're thinking about how to start again.
I'm Robert. I work for the guys from NXAI from Linz, Austria. We are one of the few deep tech companies in Europe that really actually build AI models from scratch, focusing not LLM technology, we're focusing on time series models and robotics models.
So hi, I'm Andre. I work for OEDIV, part of the OTTO group, and I'm product lead there for the data and AI department. And we're looking into sovereignty models and also collaborating with Zeta Alpha and offering sovereignty to mid-sized companies.
It's not entirely accidental that we're here on stage together.
Exactly.
So Jakub, you mentioned the Chinese models and the US models. What kind of models do you use in your application?
So we have actually with OEDIV a kind of completely locally installed frontier AI capability with RAG, and for that we're mainly using open source models, of course. So things like Gemma from Google, that's a very good model. GPT OSS from OpenAI, which is maybe slightly less capable than the GPT 5.4. But also Quen is something that we're actively looking at.
It's very performant. Quen is very performant.
But you still rely on technology that's coming from the US, right? So from China. Do we need really now jump on the train to build own LLMs, or is it already gone, the whole topic, Jens?
So I'd say, I wonder who knows about SOOVI. Does anybody heard the term SOOVI? SOOVI. It's a European model that is being trained at the moment with about 1,000 B200 GPUs, so it's quite performative. And they're trying to have first results in June, I guess. And we're close to that and trying to see how we can help to create this kind of first German model that could potentially compete.
Who is building this model?
It's a consortium with Fraunhofer and with the German AI, what's it called?
Council, something with council?
Yeah, it's some council. So it's a European initiative. They also trained a 7B model prior to that, and it's quite looking promising at the moment.
Those are, of course, Euro LLM, for example, right? And Apartus from Switzerland.
Yeah.
But I think at the moment our sort of European champion is still Mistral.
Yes.
Right? Their small 4 model is quite capable.
Yeah. But why you're not using the Mistral?
It just came out very recently.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So our goal is to have an offering from the US, from China, but also from Europe. So kind of giving the opportunity to everyone who's using our product, also the opportunity to choose for themselves what they want to use, because every model has an advantage and also a disadvantage.
So Robert, I want to kind of bounce it back to you, because in preparing this panel, you raised the question: sovereign AI, does it actually matter?
Yeah.
So can you kind of raise that discussion?
Yeah, I raised the question because when you talk to the big OEMs, they are not really interested in sovereign AI because they do their business worldwide, right? From China to the US and US back to China. So there's not the question, do we use Chinese models or US models or European models? But when it comes to, let's call it the mid-sized European companies like your company, OTTO maybe is not.
OTTO is not mid-sized.
Yeah, it's not mid-sized. It's more a really big OEM. But then sovereignty plays a crucial role. That surprised me always when I talk to the mid-sized company, and the OEMs going in a totally different way, and the first tier or the second, third tier suppliers are going sovereign. Why is it like this? Andrew, what's your
So
opinion?
I think intellectual property is, I think, one key element here, because you don't want to give your ideas, your code base. Maybe you have like a very special case you're covering, and if this leaks, then you have a problem because your intellectual property is gone. Then. So sovereign solutions can be an answer, because the gap, from my point of view,
But it's also a topic for your OEM, or am I wrong?
I'm not sure about that. So like, I guess the gap between the bigger hyperscalers for the use cases and the open source models, that's not as big for the use cases which we are using them.
So I think if you look at, let's say, global companies, like let's take Siemens, for example, right? They are, of course, operating globally, so having like a European model is maybe less important for them. That's what I think.
Okay, what's your opinion, Jens?
So,
From an
so it's
OEM
like,
perspective?
yeah, it's like you always choose the most fit. It's like, a little bit like evolution. So what's the benefit in sovereign models? And in a way, as we discussed, there's a point if you want to deliver your own mode, you need to keep your data in a way, and on the other hand, you need the best models to compete. And I guess sovereignty is by itself not an advantage, but being independent is. And independence in model size and in the type of model is in the way what is included in sovereignty in a way. So how can you create independent models that people can use for their own mode?
But if you imagine you have 5 different models,
Yes.
3 US, 1 Chinese, and 1 European, and they are all capable to do what you want. Maybe Mistral is on, what is it, rank 52 or something, but we know leaderboards are leaderboards. This is a known story. Is it that then you say, okay, Europe is an asset to take the model, or is it more, yeah, it's nice to have?
So in many fields where you can see AI innovation, if you have innovation in Europe, you first need an American investor, so European investors will get in. So there's something that like, do I believe in European technology?
We don't have
which is a problem.
We have not a US investor.
Yes, but you have Zeta Alpha,
Yeah.
which is one of the grand AI masters who founded NXAI,
Yeah.
which is a difference. But in manifold, you have that like AI innovation is first believed is if Americans also adopt it, which is a problem. But on the other hand, you have that like I really think if you start creating your own models with your own reinforcement learning, your own training, then you need to be keep it more here, and there will be advantages.
I mean, this is another level of sovereignty, right? You can have it on different levels. You can use an open source model, you can develop your own, but is the invest, I guess, because your initial question was like, are we late to the party, right?
No, not late, but is there an advantage for the disabled European models?
Well, so I see sovereignty not as an interesting thing by itself or where the model comes from, but I think sovereignty for AI really as a question of safety.
Okay.
So if you want to kind of define sovereignty as are you in control over the operation of your AI application, then if you take, let's say, a model from one of the frontier labs, which is only served through API, and we've seen this in coding agents, it can just be turned off for you the next day, right? So that's like a operational safety level number 1. The second level of safety is what will happen to the model if you, for example, use an open model. What will happen to it next year? We've seen that with Meta, where they were open, but now they're no longer open, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's a better frame, and I think we want to be in Europe kind of long-term in charge of our capabilities in AI. It would be good to have like a plan B where we have, let's say, an open European model that we can guarantee the long-term evolution of it.
And what you not should forget is something like we just one crazy day of Trump away that he cuts off technology. Like we have this cutoff law, And if you don't, if you build your stuff on American technology at the moment, and there will be someday something happening like we switch off certain certain branches from technology, they are capable of doing it, and I wonder who would put their hands in the fire regarding, no, they won't do that, never. And if you can't do that, then the question is, at least what's your fallback strategy?
Exactly. So what I learned when I started entering the industrial, and you mentioned open source models, there's a lack of knowledge in, for example, from mid-sized company, what open source means, how to handle open source, how to behave in open source community, that you need to commit stuff to the open source community, not only to consume open source stuff. So,
wait just for a moment, because regarding open source, just to see who knows a little bit about open source AI models, raise your hand if you know the name Hugging Face.
Hugging Face.
Who knows Hugging Face? Okay, 3 people, so...
GitHub? Who knows GitHub?
Yeah, but if you don't know Hugging Face, then it's perhaps even more interesting to talk about open source, where to find out how to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to explain the term, Hugging Face is the place where all open source models are listed. So if somebody here would like to see how to use open source model, where are they? Just search for Hugging Face and have some time on that website.
But I think it's a lack of knowledge when it comes to open source. When the bill of material, this licensing topic, how to handle open source communities. What is your opinion on that, Andre, from a mid-sized company?
So, in my point of view, I think this is too much to expect from a company which has little to no experience in open source, but also in AI. Mm-hmm. So kind of the way to go is having a layer like us who are providing a managed solution, because I think it's hard to expect, like you just asked, like who knows Hugging Face, who knows GitHub, and this is not everywhere, you know, like if you work in tech, then you have like always touch points, but like for someone who's manufacturing meat, or like, I don't know, like Würstchen, whatever, then you don't have the time, you don't have the resources to kind of contribute to open source, so you need a managed solution.
But there are some mid-sized companies outside there that are telling their IT department, go into GitHub, go into the communities, talk to the communities, get input from the communities. Do we need to learn open source?
Yeah, in a way, just to put that straight and make some support. So what OEDIV and Andre do there, if I understood it right, if you don't know about open source and you want to start using it, they're providing a very good service to not know about everything and use it. So if any of you is interested in that, talk to him.
So another reason I think open source is really important, especially in industrial applications, is because you have kind of the cloud versus local distinction. And if you want to run any of these models locally on your own computers that you fully control, and that are maybe even air gapped, right? And maybe not have access to internet in the factory or something. Then you really need models that you can install there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is your open source strategy at OTTO?
What I'm exploring at the moment is really like how can we have small models on our devices, something more on-prem that is also open source, and do something like the working horses, the majority of agentic work, do that with open source models and review that and quality test that with the frontier models. So this is, I guess, not a very advantageous strategy. It's about, I guess, what everybody's trying to build at the moment. And it's what I would also recommend for the moment, while all the other smart models get better. What we're really trying to do is have something that evaluates all the models on our topics constantly. Like when a new model comes, we pull it and we evaluate it with our own task against our own tasks, and then put the models to roles.
I want to stress one topic because that's what we hear always, right? So we are building foundation models for time series. It's like imagine you have a ChatGPT for text and you have time series and you can now predict text, but you can also then predict time series the next data point. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, and we are also in this game, right? We see a lot of foundation models coming to time series from Kronos, from AWS, Google, Salesforce. And we are also powering up our models open source, but we have a strict license agreement behind these models, right? And then we always hear from the industry, oh yeah, Kronos 2, you are better, but it's for free. And we say, yeah, it's for free because they make their money with infrastructure. Can we really close the gap between that? We also see that when it comes to NVIDIA, right? So they're also publishing every week a new model, and model is more an add-on to buy hardware, to buy GPUs. Do we have really the capability to close this gap because we really want to make money with the models at the end?
Yeah, it's a little bit like they're foundational models,
Yeah.
so they're quite foundational,
Yeah.
which makes them hard to sell. That's why everybody tries to have add-ons to sell that, like Claude creates co-work and Claude Code and PowerPoint add-ons and that stuff. They try to do it with hardware. If you think European-wise, I would expect a multitude of different types of expert models to appear. And today, the big models, they work with like MOA, mixture of experts. They're one model with a lot of experts, but it's just one technology. And I guess what would be very good for Europe would be something like an architecture of experts, where you combine different types of models that sit in one architecture.
Okay, what's your opinion?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a lot of room in Europe in the industrial AI space to not only develop, let's say, language models or even vision language models, but to develop very specific models for industrial modalities like sensors or time series or three-dimensional data, spatial, physical AI. So I think this sort of narrative that the race is over and we all just need to use sort of the frontier models that are leading the leaderboards right now, what I was showing in the beginning, I think that's a false narrative actually.
There are also leaderboards for time series, right? So there's a European on the top, there's a leaderboard for tabular data, there's a European on the top, there's a leaderboard for simulation, there's a European on the top. So are we a little bit too focused on the LLM technology? And to say LLM is now AI, but it's even more. It's tabular data, it's time series data, it's simulation.
Yeah. Molecular data,
yeah.
Right? Like in the life sciences, protein modeling, all these kind of things. It's a completely new problem space.
Yeah. Do we underestimate that? Okay.
I'm not sure about that. Like, I'm always like standing here and looking at like the people who are listening to us. I'm asking myself, like, is this the question? Like, because the question for me, all the development is going into the direction of being more efficient. Like, you're using the right model for the right problem. You just started this topic, right? So having like not always using the bigger models, having smaller models for the different tasks, right? Because it's all like for me, it's you want to make something, you want to generate something, to create something, right? And in the end, for the business, it's always business value at the end, right? So for me, like, it's more important how can I use and what models can I use and what and where most efficiently to generate value, right? And I guess this is also most of the questions for the people who are not necessarily working with it, but kind of are users and even power users, right?
But when you look at the discussion in the media and the newspapers, we always talk about Gen AI, agentic approaches, LLM approaches. The other approaches where Europe is very strong in it's not in the focus. Why is it like this? I mean,
In a way, we have a huge skill gap in underscore. We once said everybody needs to learn programming.
That's over now, right?
Yeah, but
that's automated. Software engineering is
what nobody says is everybody needs to learn data science.
Yeah.
Because we tend to start use cases and implement AI cases with Gen AI, And they fail a lot, and they fail because people don't understand how to evaluate data science products. And even if you say Gen AI and have a chatbot, it's still data science and it needs a different kind of evaluation. And nobody gets that in a way, or not so many people, and we have a huge mindset gap. Even if you have software developers who want to start agentic engineering, you need to have some understanding of data science, otherwise it will take a long time and you might not go into full production.
Yeah. So I heard that software architecture is a new job for the future, to be a software architect. Is that right?
What is future? For the next episode.
6 months.
Yeah, for a moment. But I guess understanding systemic design and understanding how data science applies will help. And then you directly come. If you understand data science, you understand that large language models are just a piece of the cake and not the cake.
But would you agree that in Europe we don't really have a talent problem in terms of AI and data science? And if you look at sort of the global distribution of the sort of frontier research lab, most of them are actually quite European by the composition of their teams, right?
Okay, this is very biased by my own position. I would say we have not a skill problem, we have a mandate problem. So we have like the people who know how this new technology works have to work against people who knew 20 years ago how to do it.
Exactly.
And it changed a lot, and so I would say the progression of our capabilities and how good we are at winning is the organizational reactance, like how slow the organization is willing to adopt.
I think when it comes to research, deep tech research, we are very well positioned in Europe. So we have a lot, and I know a lot of researchers, top class. If you look at the NeurIPS papers, NeurIPS is a big AI conference, a lot of
brilliant people.
Yeah, coming from Europe originally, went then to Meta Labs or to the Google Labs, etc.
Even the CPO of OpenAI is from Germany. You find in every company, in every major company that does frontier AI, you find relevant people from Germany or Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. But you need to hire worldwide if you want to really get in pole position when it comes to AI. You need to hire worldwide people. I think.
Are there even people to hire? Like,
so what kind of people?
Yeah, but like, aren't they all hired already by Google, Microsoft?
Well, some of them are coming back. Jan LeCun is now founding his new lab in Paris, right? So I think that's a good signal that actually the European ecosystem is very viable.
There's quite some interest from Europeans who work in larger companies in the US to come back.
And from a personal experience, I know a lot of guys working in the Gemini team, and their idea is to stay there 3 years and then come back to Europe to build their own stuff here. So Europe is interesting for them, because when you talk to them, especially the guys in the Gemini lab, they say, oh yeah, lifestyle, all day daily life in Europe is totally different to US life, and it's a huge asset. We underestimate the asset that you can go out in your village and have beer in a beer garden. That's not what you can find in America in every big city. So we really underestimate that.
And we should not forget that relevant sites from Google and from AWS are in Germany. So where's the data science from Amazon? In Berlin. Where and in Bern, Lausanne, there's a lot. Apple, and then there's a Google company also in Switzerland, which is huge. Best research, and DeepMind London. So there's really, we have gravity on data science here. We just don't get it into European assets.
So I want to get back to the point that you raised just now, which is kind of a mentality problem, right? So the talent is here. the technology is partially open, so we can just grab it and evolve it further. But there seems to be something with mentality, and I'm really happy to be here with two corporate guys from large companies. So is this sort of next evolution of the AI frontier, is it going to come from big corporates, or is it going to come from startups? And I think that's kind of interesting to hear your perspective on how that can evolve.
So at least our owner, which is the OTTO family, does a lot in investing in young startups with impossible founders in Hamburg, Headline and A Ventures. So they try to build something where we can balance that, like create a lot of ecosystems with new thinking to bring that into corporates again. If you ask me how well that works at the moment,
what's the success rate there?
I'd say our C-levels would say perfectly. I'd say we have room for improvement.
Andre, maybe your take as well.
I have also an opinion on that. So my prediction is that the bigger companies, or mid-sized companies, will not develop their own stuff. I think this will be a collaboration on focused startups and focused smaller companies who are helping to fill the gaps of bigger companies. Because to develop not only the technology but also the knowledge within is super hard. But for a startup, it's easy because it's like a speed boat, right? And so they can move faster, they can fail and learn faster than a big corporate. So for us, it's really interesting, this collaboration with smaller companies, because they have the technology, they have the knowledge, they can help us to develop.
Yeah, and there's also something that you can create opposite, which I'm trying to do at the moment. Is like Anthropic is very good in agentic engineering, and we're trying to cooperate to understand and to learn. And then the question is how to bring that back into the system. So how can you bring that back into startups? Like we learned from the past how to bring that back into smaller speedboats.
It's funny because from our experience, we have one customer working closely with them, and there's always the discussion when we have an offer for them. We are selling license for our models, but in this case, it's typical German machine building companies, 2 billion revenue. They always want a knowledge transfer to their people in the offer. They always want that that we have some educational add-on in the offer, that their teams are learning what we are doing and what we can do with the models, because they are not capable to do that. They are not, and they want to improve. So there's really a need to improve, and it's interesting that they ask then the startup partners to do a knowledge transfer.
But isn't this part of the business, kind of like having
we are not so much into this. We don't want to sell man hours, right?
Yeah.
So this is difficult when you raise VC money and you see then in the balance sheet that you sell man hours. That's a big problem. So this customer, yes, we do it because they believed at the beginning in us, but we won't make it as a normal approach. But this is a typical problem we are facing when it comes to German, European mid-sized companies.
Yeah, but I think to the sort of the issues or the challenges of corporate startup collaboration, it comes from two sides, right? So I think there's a benefit for both sides, but the corporates typically have the data, and I think in AI it's central that the data is kind of the fuel of the whole virtuous cycle. But what you see with a lot of, especially like very highly funded startups or like frontier labs that are now no longer startups but like big tech essentially, is that they are very hungry to get a grab on that corporate data. They want to basically, and this comes back to sovereignty, right? Like, do all the pharma companies want to share their data with OpenAI or Anthropic? I don't think so. So I think like what we see a lot is that corporates want to have complete control over everything that happens with their data. They want it inside their IT infrastructure. They want to own every derivative, every model that was trained. And I think from a startup perspective, you have to accept that that's perfectly fine. that you have no rights for
Sure.
the industrial data.
It's not about rights. It's
No.
about how to sell, not to sell man hours for services and knowledge transfer. Everything is fine, but this is a topic for us. I think it's a topic for all of the startups in the field.
Yeah, but it's also like a competitive differentiator, because if you work with some of the larger corporates out there and you say, it's fine that you keep your data, we're going to do everything on premise with open source models that we fine tune, it's actually like a very smooth sailing.
Exactly. In German, mid-size machine engineering companies want a telephone number to call. So they're not. You can't call AWS guys to ask questions. And they want a telephone number where to call and ask questions. What is going wrong in their production at the moment?
That's also a part of sovereignty, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And for me, also one of the hot takes I'm always thinking about is for bigger companies, they are actually buying maybe knowledge, and also like smaller companies to get this into their corporate because they need to incubate something. They need this knowledge, but always like paying for man hours or always paying for knowledge is very expensive. So sometimes it's even cheaper to kind of just buy the small company
Or invest.
being part of it.
But it comes down to trust and control.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand the technology, you want to have control.
Yeah.
When we started first with Hugging Face Corporation, like creating the inference endpoints, we also had not enough knowledge to use the technology, so we asked them to create an expert acceleration program, which was set up how you do it, and we can work on your expertise. And then we had just a Slack channel where we, instead of researching and finding our way through, we just had one question, one answer, go,
Yeah.
which is which helped us a lot in producing results.
So what is the next big thing, Jens, when it comes to European AI? You're a part of a very interesting initiative. Can you please share 2-3 sentences?
So the question is, who of you knows the Sprint? I'm going to say it in German, the Sprunginnovationsagentur Deutschland.
That's a Bundesagentur. It's a Bundesagentur.
It's a Bundesagentur. It's a federal agency that shall enable disruptions. And they find a very interesting topic, and it's artificial intelligence. So what they came up with is the idea of founding something like OpenAI or DeepMind, and they had the idea of not trying to found one, but 3. And what they are doing at the moment, so I guess
on May 1st.
on May the 1st, you can apply to take part. At the moment, there are roadshows in, first was in Munich, Paris, Zurich,
Amsterdam.
today in Warsaw, and Jakub is going hot to host that in Amsterdam. And the idea is to find 10 initiatives to start with. They're getting very profound funding for 2 years while they're searching for the 3. And the idea is to found every one of those 3 with 1 billion euro.
No, not all. Not everyone was 1 billion. One
From 3.
From 3, 1.
No.
Yeah.
All 3 are going to have 1 billion. So not
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
they're going to found 3. They want to found 3 companies with 1 billion each.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's very significant money. And what I really
How to
like
spend
about
1
that,
billion? How to spend 1 billion?
Oh, I
How to
guess they're
spend
going
1
to
billion
actually.
fast? Yeah.
Yeah, the question,
It's a really- it's a
no,
excellent
and
idea.
and it's very interesting because on the one hand you say, oh wow, 1 billion, so much, and then you compare it and you say, oh, not so much
Really?
compared to OpenAI, compared to the other big ones.
But we don't want to have the money in GPUs, right? So the idea is not only to buy GPUs for the 1 billion.
We're going to see that, but what's very, very interesting is on those roadshow meetings, so I've been on the first 3, and there are always about 200 people invited, so the best people they think they can make it or that apply. And if you talk to those guys and if you see what they're capable of, what they are thinking about, then this is very, very promising to me, and I'm really, really eager to support any of those
Yeah, what I think is really interesting that it's actually German money is being spent Europe-wide.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
I mean,
German tax money
yeah.
spent Europe-wide.
So I think that's an excellent idea, not just for the ones receiving it, but also for Germany.
That's the Netherlands
And
perspective.
kind of taking it back here to the Hannover Messe with the industrial AI, right? I think it's really important that that kind of money also gets spent on the stuff that Europe is really good at, not just building the next leaderboard leader, but really building something that's useful for the industry.
And it's really a challenge because all the people who have just one idea how to apply, every innovative idea is just one LinkedIn user way to be disrupted. So you can't do that. You really need some kind of machine.
So it's a great outlook for AI Europe. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.